The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. There was a scholar of the law who stood up to test Jesus and said, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" He said in reply, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." He replied to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live." But because he wished to justify himself, he said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man fell victim to robbers, and he went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. They stripped and beat him and went off, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down that road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. Likewise, a Levite came to the place, and when he saw him, he passed on the opposite side. But a Samaritan traveler who came upon him was moved with compassion at the sight. He approached the victim, poured oil and wine over his wounds, and bandaged them. Then he lifted him up on his own animal and took him to an inn and cared for him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper with the instruction, "Take care of him. If you spend more than what I've given you, I shall repay you on my way back." Which of these 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? He answered, "The one who treated him with mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus.
In the readings of today, that is the first reading and the Gospel of today, the question that the readings try to answer is about God's kingdom. How do we get to God's kingdom? How does salvation come about? And the readings tell us that we have the answer. We do have the answer for salvation. It is not something far away or something distant. Let us pay attention to the words of Deuteronomy today. This is what the readings say. If only you would hear the voice of the Lord and keep his commandments and statutes. For this command I ask that you listen to it today. It is not mysterious. So, the readings tell us that what God is asking of us is not mysterious. It doesn't take us much time to understand. The answer is with us. And then it goes on to say, and it is also not remote, not distant. It is not up in the sky. Can you imagine? It's not up in the sky. The answer is with us. And you cannot say, who will go up to the sky to find it? Who will go up the sky to find it? It's not even across the sea. It is not even across the sea. The only thing you are left with is to carry it out. The only thing you are left with to carry it out. Salvation not very far. God's kingdom not very far. What we are left with is to carry it out. And in the gospel today, Jesus shows us how. We are told that a scholar of the law comes asking him this question. And as Jesus answered this question, he connects it to who is your neighbor. If this scholar can answer that question of a neighbor, then he's on the right path to salvation. This is what the scholar tells Jesus. Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? So this is what Jesus tells him. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. So we are being urged to love God with all our heart, with all your being, with all your strength, with all your mind, and your neighbor as you love yourself. So when we talk of a neighbor, who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? No? Is it the person who lives next to me? Is it more than that? Does the Bible or the scriptures invite us to look at a neighbor differently? And then, this is Jesus, since he talks about neighbor, he tells a story. And this story, who are the figures of this story? It is a priest, it's a Levite. That there was a gentleman who was traveling between Jerusalem and Jericho. And then there was somebody who was beaten and hurt by roadside. And then a priest comes. Of course, you know the work of a priest is always there talking like the way I'm doing here. And then what this priest does is just passes this person. The priest always talks about love, kindness, care, and concern. He just passes. And then another person, a Levite. Levites were people who worked in the temple. No? They made sure there was order. They cleaned the place, you know. A Levite also comes and he passes. Then the next person is a Samaritan. Samaritan, in the times of Jesus, the Jews despised them because the Jews considered them not to be worshiping the right God. The true God was the God of Israel, so they were despised. So this gentleman, the Samaritan, unexpectedly comes, looks at this person, lifts him up, and we are told that he takes him to an inn. He spends the night in that place, and then he tells the keeper of the inn that I'm leaving, but any additional expenses I'll take care of. And the question for Jesus to this man was, of these three people, who was the true neighbor? And the scholar of the law says it was the Samaritan who was really the neighbor. So the question I would like us to reflect upon is, with the example of Jesus, we have a clear sense of who a neighbor is. We do have a clear sense of who a neighbor is. But then, why is seeing this neighbor sometimes so difficult? What do you think was going on in the mind of the priest? What do you think? Was the priest busy? Could the priest have been thinking that this person was not responsible? Could the priest have been unconvinced about caring for those who are in need? What was going on in the mind of the priest? Why is this question important? This question is important because a lot of times we have good reasons not to see somebody as a neighbor. We have good reasons not to see somebody as a neighbor. The Good Samaritan is a neighbor because his faith was not something just in his head. His faith was also in his heart. The Lord be with you. The Lord be with you.